I'm Sarah Starr, and this is your space weather forecast for today. We've had a massive X-class flare. We will be seeing this arriving within the next couple of days, 72 hours before it arrives. This is our 6th X-class flare that we have had since 2024 started. So we're definitely in our peak of solar maximum. Things are ramping up. We have 2 very active sunspot regions that are facing Earth right now. So this is a look at our sun. Don't pay attention to any of these other sunspots groups. We're gonna look at these 2. So 3615, we have a very large chance that we're gonna have an X-class flare from this region today. Excuse me, I can't talk. The X-class flare, too much stuff, I can't think. So that's gonna be a side effect if you haven't noticed already. So 3614 actually is the region that gave us that X-class flare. What it did was it traveled along the filament channel and then it erupted from that. So we had 2 flares going off at the same exact time. We thought the X-class flare came from our active region 3615. However, it did not. It went through our 3614 sunspot region. Both are very, very active. Both have a very large chance of having an X-class flare. Now this X-class flare did send us into an R3, R2 radio blackout. So here's footage of that X-class flare erupting from 3614. 3615 erupting at the same exact time. So there was confusion on which one did produce that X-class flare. And this X-class flare was a long duration. As you can see, we're getting several other M-class flares today. Yet again, let's look at the percentage. This is region 3614. Doesn't look like much. However, this is where that X-class flare came from. And because it already erupted, it went down in size. However, it did gain 1 sunspot. Proton level for this is at a 15%. We are in a solar 2 radiation storm because of that X-class flare and the number of M-class flares we're getting from both of those regions. Notice 15% chance for another X-class flare from this region, mainly due to these portions right here, very thin, not too many buffers. They're kind of congregating together, so we have to keep a lookout for 3614. Didn't think we had to, but here we go. But yet again, that coronal mass ejection, we can see it arriving around the 25th, and it will be a little bit north, so we won't get the full effect. It'll kind of pass over us, but we will have this glancing influence that will be very powerful. This is the region that we have been looking out for. However, this is 3615, directly below our X-class flare region. Now, it did gain a delta component right over in this region here, so it is definitely the most complex region, which is why we have a higher proton level percentage, why we have a higher X-class level percentage. We are getting M-class flares at this very moment from it. And look at the size, drastically went up in size. Only 1 more sunspot region or sunspot was added to this complexity, but this is a big region. We really need to watch out for this today, specifically in the next coming of days. This is going to be Earth facing today, tomorrow, the next day. We have a large percentage of having Earth-directed components, which we are. We're gonna see this CME arrive in the next 72 hours. Now, like I said, the CME didn't produce a lot of velocity, 800 kilometers per second, so it's going to be very slow moving. We may be able to see it arrive late on the 24th, early on the 25th. And it was a full halo CME, so it's going to be distributed in an even line, not too much velocity, more density because of the level of protons. Protons hold mass. And this is what happens after it disperses, all these little dots, that's the protons. Yet again, this is mass. You can physically see this, you can physically feel this. And when we had that flare, it sent us into this S1 solar radiation storm, which is minor. However, we have met the threshold of our S2 solar radiation storms, which is moderate. We're expected to stay there within the next 2 days if we don't get any more coronal mass ejections, which I believe we will. Here we are currently with our solar radiation. This is our radio blackout, which we are still in. It's going to pulse and move throughout the day. It already has. It's actually moved west of our region. So the absorption very, very high. These areas right here that you see, these are the proton levels. They are affecting those polar regions. A lot of communication issues, density issues. You're gonna feel very heavy. You're gonna feel very confused. You need to hydrate. It's no joke. This is no joke, I repeat. And you also might feel extremely fatigued today. Yet again, you might not be able to talk. I just cannot talk today. but we are getting a lot more light. We've already had several M-class flares. More M-class flares are popping up. We just had another M5, which is not on our graph here yet, but that was from region, of course, 3615, which is about to pop off. Let me tell you, look at all the light that we're getting. You saw the complexity of it. It's just a matter of time. It is Earth facing now. And within less than 24 hours, you can see how much this region has grown. And this is the Earth scale. This is how large we are. Imagine yourself as a teeny tiny dot. This is that sunspot region. Remember, the sun is much larger than this sunspot region. So this just gives you an example of how serious these solar flares can be, the amount of plasma that can be ejected from these regions, which we saw. We also have this large coronal hole, which is right next to our very active regions, 3614, that gave us the X-class flare right above it, 3615 right next to our coronal hole. So if we do have any plasma ejected from this, you can expect to see a very large effect on our Earth, very large geomagnetic storms, which we are heading into geomagnetic levels here in the next coming of days. So here are our solar winds. Now, we were in active G1 geomagnetic storm levels yesterday, the day prior. We have dipped down. We are around 350 in average around our speeds, and they are expected to increase because we do have transient CMEs that are coming in from the 17th. That would be what this is right here. We are in our active warning levels with our geomagnetic storm. So today we're not expected to get anything too much. Tomorrow it will start to increase yet again later on the 24th. Early on the 25th, we will be in those levels. So 4, 5, we could exceed over 500 kilometers per second, which will produce a G1 to a G2 geomagnetic storm, which is mild to moderate. However, we do have a chance of reaching those G3, which is a strong geomagnetic storm. However, further analysis is in progress right now to see how determined this is going to be. We will see some beautiful auroras in 60% of our high latitude areas, 25% in our middle latitude areas. So we can expect to see definitely some colors with this large coronal mass ejection that is incoming. And here are our solar winds right now. We are around 400 kilometers per second. So we are in that active warning for those geomagnetic storm levels. 400 is basically the threshold whenever we meet it. Density is a little bit high, so you can feel heavy today with those protons coming in. Density will increase because we have a very large amount of protons coming in from those active regions, several M-class flares, C-class flares, the high chance of having another X-class flare, and the X-class flare on its way that has a high level of protons. So that's going to stick for the next couple of days. You're going to feel out of it. And yet again, this is our 6th X-class flare this year. Mind you, it's only March, right? So we have a high level of solar activity going on right now. We are in our solar maximum. You can see the progression of the number of sunspots that we have on our sun. Here's a graph. Year 2025 was supposed to be the peak. However, you can see we exponentially went over that level. Same with the radial flux progression. 2025, this was our peak. However, you can see yet again, maximum that we are going through right now, exponentially exceeding those limits. So what are we going to expect in 2024? That's the question. And the proof is basically those 6 X-class flares that we've had in the past 3 months, 3 months alone. So solar maximum is really ramping up here. We have the whole rest of the year to go. Isn't that nuts? We also have some crazy grid patterns going on with our Schumann right now. So lots of proton levels, a lot of density that is coming in, a lot of purging is coming out. Too much mass, something needs to come out in order for you to hold the photonic light that comes in. So we have our moon and Virgo energy, which is helping us create order where there is chaos, where things need to be fixed, where things need to heal, where things need to be repaired. And this morning you may have felt agitated because our moon is opposing Saturn and Venus, mind you. So they're pulling us in all these directions that we don't really want to go in. So there may be conflicts in what we want to do versus what we need to do. We have that Pisces energy and Saturn and Venus, and they are creating all of these distractions, and it's really hard to focus today. But later we have Jupiter coming in and bringing optimism and confidence, so we can look at smaller aspects to gain more clarity. So I apologize. That was a lot of information in a short amount of time. Love you.